Backstage news on talent reactions to Vince McMahon's latest round of allegations, plus Chris Jericho gives his comments on his former boss. We have another indication that Sasha Banks has indeed been released by WWE. We have some information on two producers that have reportedly been relieved of their duties in WWE. Plus, we also have an update on what's to expect on tonight's episode of Monday Night Raw. All this and more in today's WWE news. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestle News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of WWE. So let's start off talking about what everyone's talking about at the moment. That is one Vince McMahon. And we have the reaction of the talent to the latest round of allegations against the former chairman and CEO of WWE. Now, after the Wall Street Journal reported that Vince McMahon has paid over $12 million in hush money, there have been mixed reactions backstage from the talent. This is according to Dave Meltzer on the latest episode of the Wrestling Observer radio show. The allegation claimed, of course, that McMahon has paid off three other women with whom he has supposedly been sexually involved with, one of which was a former wrestler that has claimed to have been coerced into having oral sex with Vince McMahon, while another was sent unsolicited nude pictures of him from McMahon himself. Now, Meltzer has heard from several different wrestlers who were at SmackDown, and they provided varying degrees of thoughts when it comes to the latest batch of allegations surrounding McMahon. Now, one believed that people know what they're getting themselves into when they enter the wrestling business, which again, well, I'll save my opinion for a second. Another talent revealed that McMahon is not selling anything right now, and nobody backstage is talking about the situation, as they believe that if you are heard doing that, then there is a chance of getting in trouble, which nobody needs right now. Then, a third person gave a very different take, as they said they were very concerned about the situation. They believe that it's one thing for him to pay money in order to cover up an affair, which was the first allegation that was made against him, but it's something else when it becomes coercion, and they are viewing this as a concerning situation. Now, McMahon, of course, was backstage at SmackDown this week, although unlike when the first allegation was made against him, he didn't appear on television this time. Despite that, it was being viewed as business as usual. We spoke about this yesterday, behind the scenes when it came to running the show, and that was what was happening. Now, of course, that original report about McMahon came out on June 12, which claimed he paid off a former paralegal with whom he had an affair with. Since that point, the WWE's board of directors have been investigating him alongside John Laurinaitis, and Vince McMahon has stepped down as the WWE CEO, with Stephanie McMahon taking it over on an interim basis. Now, I do want to talk about Chris Jericho's comments about it. He was on the True Geordie podcast. It's a fascinating watch if you haven't. And big up Brian, because also, you know, this is a real great interview, and I think it's real great for YouTube content. So if you haven't watched it, go and check it out. The content production level is super, super high. So he was asked, Jericho, was he surprised against these allegations made against him? This is what Jericho said, because I disagree a lot with what he's saying. Jericho said, quote, "Not really. I mean, is there a surprise in any industry when it happens? And really, when you look at it, it's not illegal. He had an affair, paid the lady off not to say anything, and moved on. People want to jump on it, but there's always an undertone of it's wrestling. If you look, that story came out with a bang, and then you really haven't heard anything about it since. If this was, you know, Hollywood with Harvey Weinstein, that sort of thing, but the difference between that was he was holding women back from getting gigs, Harvey Weinstein. Either bang me or you don't get the starring role. This has never been said in Vince's thing. There was a mutual acknowledgement of this affair, and then he paid the lady to say nothing, and she took the money. So, you know, I really know Vince well, and it sucks that it happened, and it sucks he did it, but is anything really going to happen from it? I really don't think so. Jericho emphasized that although McMahon's alleged transgressions are morally reprehensible, they will likely be forgotten about down the road. However, Jericho could admittedly be proven wrong in 6 months' time. He said, quote, "I think it will come and go once again. Is it morally right? Absolutely not. Is it illegal? No. Is it something that's going to get him into real trouble? I don't think so, because once again, unfortunately, it's just Vince McMahon, it's just wrestling. Of course, he's going to do that. So I think these things come and go, and they happen, and it's too bad, but I think it really doesn't matter in the long run. 6 months from now, I'll either be right or wrong." I couldn't disagree more, to be honest, with Jericho's comments. The only thing I think I agree with him on is that it's not illegal, but to give him benefit of the doubt, it must be said, I think this was recorded before the comments about, or the article came out on Friday with the latest allegations that date back the past 16 years. Jericho really here is just talking about the first allegation that was made on June 12 against with the paralegal and that hush money, and that it was an affair that was consensual, but also it must be said that's the company saying that. So I think that's important to state too. The company have come out, the board of directors have come out and said, oh no, it was completely mutual. The issue is, and these latest allegations make it even more disturbing, is that Vince McMahon is in a position of authority. He holds ultimate power in WWE. As the CEO, as the boss, he shouldn't be having affairs with people that work for him. And then again, this is the point, it was quid pro quo, because this woman, even in the paralegal case, she was given a raise, a substantial raise, at a time they were doing budget cuts because she was having this affair with the boss. And then, if you want to get into these other allegations, this former wrestler is saying that she was coerced into being intimate with him, and that when this backed off, or she backed off, she was then released. Her contract wasn't renewed. That's a problem. And again, people go, well, it's not illegal, but it doesn't matter. We're not talking about legality here. We're talking about a guy who is in ultimate position in a publicly traded company. He's in a position of authority. He's in a position of power. That is unacceptable. If I'm an investor in WWE, if I'm a stakeholder, a stockholder in WWE, I'm appalled by this, because I'm thinking I'm investing my hard-earned money into this company, and this is what the guy who's responsible for all of that money is doing on company time with company employees. How is that right? That isn't right. And again, it might not be illegal, but it doesn't make it right. And it definitely isn't something that a chairman or CEO of a publicly traded company should be doing. He's got a contract with Fox. Just ask Fox what happened in a similar situation to that, Roger Ailes. Now, again, it might have been slightly different in that case because there were allegations of thing against people's will. But it doesn't matter. It was still similar situations. And it's just, again, it's just wrong. All of this is just wrong. And Vince McMahon, I don't care if he's not selling it. I don't care if he goes to the ring and says nothing and comes backstage and says F him or whatever he's been saying. It doesn't make it right. And whilst he might not get into any legal trouble, and these weird takes on social media trying to justify, oh, the woman took the money, so right, it still doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it right. And it kind of blows my mind that you've still got people defending this guy when there are multiple allegations. I mean, I shouldn't even laugh, really, but it's wild. It absolutely is wild. And again, to give Jericho the benefit of the doubt, it must be said, I think those comments were in reference to the first allegation, but still not right. I still disagree, but we'll move on. We'll talk about Sasha Banks. Of course, lots of speculation about her future in WWE. It's been almost 2 months since Sasha Banks and Naomi chose to walk out while WWE Raw was on the air, relinquishing their women's tag team titles and leaving the company to improvise that new main event. Now, since then, numerous signs have pointed to Banks and Naomi departing WWE rather than just being suspended. Just a couple of examples. WWE removed all references to Banks and Naomi from their TV intro, deleted their Facebook pages, pulled their merchandise. They even edited Sasha Banks out of a recap of Paige's 2017 WWE return. So it does seemingly looks like that she is on her way out of the WWE. Removing the woman from more content seems to be like the plan going forward. Earlier in the weekend, many fans might have noticed there was a slight change applied to the Peacock Network profile icons for subscribers to the streaming service, which I am not because I'm over here in the UK. You can pick a specific character from a variety of television shows to be displayed as your profile icon. 3 of the choices for said icons were WWE stars Sasha Banks, Asuka, and Roman Reigns. However, what's happened when it comes to Sasha Banks, WWE has removed her icon of choice from the platform. Of course, a recent report from PW Insider claims that Banks may be engaging in, quote, some signings outside of WWE as early as this fall. And an additional report from Fightful Select, Sean Ross Sapp, noted that WWE Creative has been operating under the assumption that Banks is indeed done with the company, with several high-profile talents indicating to reports that Banks was released last month, confirming the original report from Wrestling Inc.'s Raj Giri. I am under the impression, like a lot of people, and I don't have insider information here, but I'm under the assumption that she is indeed gone from the company, or at the very least is not going to be coming back. She still might technically be under contract. I don't know. I think that her contract was coming to a close anyway, so I wouldn't have been surprised if WWE decided to release her because that puts more time on her having a non-compete as opposed to letting her contract expire, and then she'd be free to do anything anyway. So I wouldn't be shocked if WWE ran down her contract and then released her with a couple days left just to piss her off, frankly. But I think that she's gone from the company. We're going to talk briefly about some producers here. Some of you may have seen recently that Curtis Axel and Aria Daivari were back as WWE producers. Of course, they're both former WWE superstars. They pivoted to roles backstage within WWE. However, this may not be the case anymore. It was noted previously how Daivari and Axel haven't been used much by WWE or been on the run sheets as producers. The plan was to use them more often, but the company chose to scale back to producers working on more than one segment. PW Insider has now added to that report, saying that the two have been relieved of their duties, making production harder this past Friday at SmackDown without the two extra sets of hands. The remaining producers have been described as extremely overworked as of late. The show also saw Adam Pearce taking on the point position and Jason Jordan, who currently oversees all WWE producers, not being at the show as he and his wife are expecting a baby. Quote, there had been a big push for more producers to be added right after WrestleMania due to this insane workload and the time the company expects of its producers. That is what led to the probationary additions. It's unclear whether either man will be brought back to the company or if anyone else will be affected by the latest round of budget cuts. So, unfortunately, no more Curtis Axel, or for them, certainly Curtis Axel or Aria Daivari. The Daivari one was interesting as well because he was actually appearing at AEW Dark tapings whilst he was a WWE producer, and a lot of people said, well, something's got to be amiss there, and it looks to be that he's no longer a producer, hence why he was at that AEW Dark television taping. Finally, of course, it's Monday, so it means Monday Night Raw, and Brock Lesnar will return to Raw for the first time in months during tonight's episode of the show, which emanates from the AT&T Center, in San Antonio, Texas. Lesnar, of course, made his return to SmackDown a few weeks ago, confronting Roman Reigns, following Reigns' undisputed WWE Universal Championship defense against Riddle. Initially, it looked as though Lesnar had plans to acknowledge his longtime rival, but instead he gave him an F5, and a last man standing match is set for SummerSlam as the main event because they've got nothing else. Now, it's unclear if Paul Heyman or the Bloodline will appear on Raw, but given that they are the Raw Tag Team Champions, you would think maybe the Usos will show up. We'll have to wait and see. It is something certainly to tune in to watch. There's no doubt about that. It's also been announced that there's an open challenge for the United States Championship. Bobby Lashley will be defending. WWE deleted the tweet on Sunday, but the match is still expected to go ahead as planned, even though, of course, Lashley is defending the championship against Theory at SummerSlam as well. So we'll wait and see what happens when it comes to that one. But certainly Brock being on the show makes it interesting. I mean, babyface Brock is still entertaining to watch, but I'm going to be honest, I have really not a ton of interest in Brock versus Reigns at SummerSlam. One, because we've seen it, and two, we know the outcome, unless there's a cash-in. But Theory's the Money in the Bank holder, so what's going to happen then? I don't know. Nevertheless, guys, be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right-hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.